Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and voters of the town of Gray. We are here tonight with three candidates for the Gray Town Council, Peter Gellerson, Lew Mancini, and Richard Barter. And to start the night off, we're going to give each one of them a chance to introduce themselves. And we will start with Peter.
Good evening. I'm Pete Gellerson. I'm 62 years of age. I'm married to Deb Gellerson, who worked for about 10 years in the school system. We have a daughter, Kelly, who's 24, who graduated from Gray New Gloucester High School in the class of 2005. My occupation is a property manager, and I've had the pleasure of living in town for 32 years this month. Thank you, Brad.
Lou?
Good evening. My name is Lew Mancini. I've been a resident of Gray for nearly 50 years now. Went to school in Gray. Graduated from Gray New Gloucester High School. Been married for 31 years to my wife, Deb, who most of you probably know. We have 4 grown children. We really enjoy living in Gray. We like being involved into what's going on, and I'm excited about the future of Gray, and I really want to be part of it. Thank you.
And Richard?
My name is Richard Barter. I seem to be the older of the contenders sitting here this evening. I arrived in Gray in 1946. I attended the Hancock School, graduated from Pennell Institute, married my classmate from the 6th grade on, Patty Libby, who also graduated from Pennell Institute. Spent 40 years as a school and secondary school and college administrator. Have owned and operated 5 different businesses here in the town of Gray. Our family roots are deep. Our interest in the community is extensive. Our knowledge of the community and commitment to it is absolutely first rate. I look forward to returning to the Gray Town Council.
As part of that introduction, one of the questions that I'd like to ask, in considering that town council politics or town politics are getting deeper and deeper, and the town is growing a little bit here and there, and some people like what's happening, some people don't. Councilors in the past have been under heavy fire. Real briefly, why are each one of you running for town council in this day and age? And we'll just reverse the order and start with Richard.
It's a pretty easy question for me. I'm technically retired, although I've never really left the town of Gray. I'm deeply committed to it. I grew up in this town. I knew the town when there was 1,600 people. I see the town today of over 7,000 people. The town has certain unique characteristics, a culture, a feeling, a pride that is very important to those of us who have been here a long time. We've seen that slip in recent years. To a degree, it's a phenomenon of growth. It's a phenomenon of the accelerated pace of life. And I would like to work in attempting to restore to this town some of those wonderful characteristics that, for me, were always special and very unique.
Lou?
I like, not as much as Richard, but like Richard, have considerable history in Gray, and can remember back when things were considerably different than they are now. Looking forward, what I see is I see Gray becoming a mecca of activity. It's going to be a popular destination for people and businesses. I think there's a lot of big decisions coming up that this town is going to have to make concerning businesses, concerning how things are done in this town, and to hopefully encourage more public input. And I just really want to be part of that.
My answer is probably on the simple side, but I like to volunteer my time. I served on the planning board for 9 years prior to being elected to the council in 2008, and I enjoy giving back to the town. I've lived in Gray longer than any place in my life. I think it's a good town with great people, and I think to some extent my work life and is a plus. I worked in heavy construction for 35 years, and so that helps with public works decisions and things like that, but I'm here to make a difference, hopefully. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you. Now, our first question of the night, and we will start with Lew with this question and then go to Peter and Richard. Would you please define, as you perceive them, the roles of the town manager and the individual councilors or the council as a whole as they actually apply to the town manager and the town manager performing her duties?
As I see it, the town manager's job is basically to oversee the everyday operation of the town, and including the staff, the individual departments, to implement directives from the council, and to participate along with the council with an attitude of what is best for the town of Gray. And the council, in my opinion, is the leadership and the governing body of the town, and it's important that they are willing to do both jobs, and it's not always easy to do. They deal with the ordinances, policy. They give direction to the town manager. They hold the town manager accountable for their directives, and they responsible for committee appointments and such things as that, and to see that their directives are carried out. Thank you.
The town manager is the head administrator of the town. In this case, she has 60 to 65 people that she's responsible for, which comprise the town workforce. The council, on the other hand, are volunteers who, as a body, are involved in making financial and other decisions that the manager is looking to the council for guidance on. I would estimate that about a third of the council's time is spent on financial matters. The budget is the big thing that takes really the most hours out of any project during the course of the year. And it's a tough time of year, especially the past 3 years, with the economy being the way it has been, on the council to make decisions that are wise financially, in an effort to keep the tax rate down. Thanks, Brad.
I take a more of a, I guess, a longer, more historical perspective on this type of town government. When I grew up in this town, we had selectmen. My father-in-law and my brother-in-law were both on the committee that worked with the town to introduce the manager form of government, in the belief that with the growth of the town, executive decisions needed to be made by a well-paid, well-informed, well-trained professional that could tend to the complexity of the issues that a growing town was going to confront. That does not negate the role and the function of the town council. I would perhaps have a little stronger point of view than Peter on the role of a town council. The town council are the policymakers. It is their responsibility to set goals, to make sure that they do not micromanage the town manager, that they insist in every way. But they, too, are responsible for tangible outcomes, directing the staff of the town to adhere to these standards and to make sure that what has been promised to the citizens of the town, to the best of their collective abilities, can be obtained. And when this works well, it is still, in the state of Maine, the finest form of local government.
Just a brief follow-up question. Should town employees be subject to individual direction from town councilors, or should that come via the town manager? All three of you. We'll go.
I'll jump right in quickly because you startled me on that one. Absolutely not. The town employees work with the town manager. The town council oversees the scope and the responsibilities that the town employees are given, but the day-to-day management of an employee, just the line of authority, it goes from the town manager to the department head, division heads, to the employees. The only person where the town council would have a direct supervisory role over a town employee would be with, in their direct work with the town manager, but never with an employee.
Lou?
I would basically have to agree with Richard on that. They do work for the town manager. Unfortunately, in the past, we have seen where some things have ended up at the council level because of problems. But that's something that's going to happen from time to time. But basically, Richard is correct. They work for the town manager, and that's the way it should be.
Same answer, no question. Town employees work for the town manager or the department heads under her. Town council have no business whatsoever directing employees. Again, town councilors are basically volunteers, not employees.
Okay, our next question for tonight, budget is just around the corner, municipal budget. Town council seems to have done a good job in reviewing it, and the town manager presenting it. The department heads worked very hard on it. Starting with Peter and then followed by Lew and Dick, or Dick and Lew in that order. Do you support the municipal budget? And if you do not, why not? And if you do, why? Peter?
I do support it. I voted for it during the council sessions this spring. I feel as though the town manager did an excellent job in trying to keep the budget reasonable and the tax rate down. I think it was very conservatively done, and just to reiterate, the past 3 years have been tough. Trying to keep costs down and be innovative, and the tax rate as proposed will go up a nickel on the municipal side. So basically a flat budget as compared to last year's. And just to put a pitch in, please come to the polls on June 14th and vote on the budget. Thank you.
Richard?
I too support the budget. I think the budget has been carefully worked on, and at this point in time, we're obligated to respect and honor the work that went into it. However, I would take a longer point of view. Peter was right, the last 3 years have been difficult, but I would advise the next 3 years are probably going to be more difficult. We know that, and therefore working on the budget of this town needs to start tomorrow on next year's budget. That we really need to make hard assessments, assessments of programs, assessments of personnel, and that these guidelines have to drive our deliberations, and not coming up with some type of a contrived what the incremental increase is going to be, or dipping into reserve funds to make the budgets balance, or tell people to cut a percentage at the 11th hour. I think the budget has to be a well-crafted, well-designed, transparent process that involves all of the stakeholders of the town, and there should be citizens' input throughout the year in getting to the point where we have a town budget, where it's not a town budget that will be passed, but a town budget that reflects the priorities, the interests, and the needs of this town going forward.
And Lou?
I too support the budget, but I do so with some concern. I have a little heartburn the last couple of years that everybody has pretty much been asked to hold the line, and they've done an excellent job doing that. I really have to compliment those charged with putting this budget together. It was really done excellently. But what troubles me is in the last couple of years, the one thing that we have seem to be spending money on is administration. And although generally I don't have a huge problem with that, I do have a concern about building an administration that is so big and so expensive that we don't have money for anything else. And that, I think, would be a mistake, because when we have roads to fix and other very important capital projects that need to be done, I think, like Richard said, we need to be very careful of how we spend the money that we have. And then again, it's part of the process is to try to get these things accomplished and still try to keep the tax rate within reason. And hopefully future economic development will help us to do that. Thank you.
Was that everybody?
Yep.
Oh, just- I was so enthralled with the answers. I mean, it got me thinking. Our next question. If you could make one broad brush change in gray, one that people would notice, if you will, what would it be, and how would you, go about making that change? And we're going to start with Dick on this question.
I think my broad brush would be a series of incremental minor brush strokes. I'd start with improved communication. I think there is a terrible negative network of disinformation, misinformation, rumor. Too much time gets spent in this town defending or counterpointing as opposed to articulating and working in a collaborative manner. I think that we have to understand the skills, the techniques, the wisdom of marketing. And we market to each other. We market to our community. We market to our neighbors. We market to business. We market to the state. The town of Gray has to market itself where it has distinctive, identifiable characteristics. There is a brand about Gray which is recognized and applauded. And we achieve that by working in collaboration with county government. We work in collaboration with our colleagues in similar positions through networking in town, nearby towns. We don't always reinvent the wheel, but we build upon the good practices of other places. But we make very certain that we communicate in a variety of ways, written, electronic, and face-to-face with people, explaining to them where we're going rather than telling them it's a done deal.
Lew?
The one thing that I came up with, and I tried several times to change it, and I just couldn't, was I would like to brush away the attitude both in town and other places other than Gray itself, of the attitude that Gray is not a business-friendly town. We're getting to the point where most people don't even like to hear you say that anymore, but I think to say or to believe that it doesn't exist is a mistake, because I still think there's an element of that out there. And I have been in places other than Gray and heard that very thing. Now, in order to change that, I think we should do exactly what we are doing. And there has been a conscious effort in recent years, thanks to the council, the town manager, the CEDC, the newly formed Greater Gloucester Development Corporation. These are all, and I've had the opportunity to work with them, all very dedicated people that want to see business come to Gray and change that general attitude that Gray is not a business-friendly place. These are passionate people that really care about the town. It's been basically an honor to work with them, and I'm telling you, feel free to come down and join into some of these committees, because there's a lot of exciting work going on, and that would be my one thing. Thank you.
Peter?
Over the past 3 years since I've been on the council, at least while I have been on the council, there's been an effort to save the village and improve upon it. The Clark Block was the first attempt. There is money in this year's proposed budget to build a new sidewalk up to where this is taking place at the new town hall. My proposal would be to close most of Brown Street and create a village green or a village common to continue that effort to revitalize the village. You know, with the traffic situation, it's never going to be ideal in all probability, but that would be a small way that we could perhaps take some of the traffic out of part of the village and make it more pedestrian friendly, and that was what I came up with.
Thank you. Now, Lew mentioned business friendly. We're all concerned about business friendly. If you could, in fact, solicit and bring one large or notable business of any kind to Gray, what or who would you shoot for, and where would you like to see that located, considering that, at least from my perspective, there's not a lot of open area that can be used in what we call the village district or off the new bypass. And we're gonna start with Lew.
The first business that popped into my mind when I read this question was IDEX in Westbrook, because of the problems that they were having with Pike Industries down there. And I was saying, boy, if they ever decided to leave, what a company to bring to Gray. I mean, and I thought about them. I also thought of a company like Unum, somebody like that, somebody that would come, possibly set up shop down in Northbrook, build a really nice, expensive building that we could tax, provides some really good jobs for a lot of people here in Gray. There would be basically low impact to the town. People that had to commute from other towns would probably commute on the turnpike. They would come to work, they would leave, hopefully maybe stop at Hannaford's and buy some groceries on the way home. But there would be, I think, a low traffic impact for that type of business, low impact on the environment, just a very good, clean, pleasing type of business.
Like Lew, there was one thing that popped into my mind right off the bat when I read the question, and that was a hotel. I feel as though there's nothing in Wyndham, there's nothing in Gray. With the casino coming at some point to Oxford, and with the huge amount of traffic that is on the main turnpike, that a hotel plunked down either in Northbrook or somewheres nearby that would be visible from the pike would be, to me, a business that would succeed. My other, perhaps, dream would be should the bond issue that is coming to the voters in November in regards to renovating the Cumberland County Civic Center not be approved. I think Gray would be a great place for a new civic center. Again, it's centrally located between Portland and Auburn, Lewiston area. Great access because of the turnpike, and I think that would be another potential candidate. Thanks.
Richard?
It's a difficult question to answer because it's easy to dream and speculate that we would be able to offer a better facility for a major corporation than other towns that have a much more sophisticated and more developed infrastructure. Therefore, I really looked at this question, what can we do in Gray that is distinctive and unique? Number one, I would go with Peter with a hotel, but probably not quite his version of a hotel. I see a family hotel. I see a family hotel by the turnpike. I see a family hotel that works in liaison with Pineland, with the golf course, with the wildlife park, so that we're creating partnerships and we're creating synergistically ways that these forces can come together to complement and enhance what we already have in Gray. We have the best darn wildlife around. The golf course is one of the best in the state. We don't have to apologize for them, but we don't support them. We should. and a hotel on the Turnpike, a family hotel, would do that as well as create some worthwhile local jobs. I certainly would not, if a medical center or Unum or someone were interested, I'd love to see that. But my second thought is really quite different. I'm concerned. The man who headed the committee to develop this building as a volunteer, Ralph Wink, has moved out of town. I've lived in the town long enough to see all kinds of senior citizens, retired professionals, senior citizens of considerable wealth, have to end up moving to Scarborough, where they're lined up to get into these types of retirement villages, or in Falmouth. I'd like to see in the town of Gray, upscale, 55-year and older, residential housing made available that would keep these people who have resources, who have time, who are not going to be a heavy burden on the town with education expenses and other services, that will support our restaurants, that will support our golf course, and they can continue the bonds of friendship that they have developed in this town. I think that this would add to our revenues, it would add balance to our town, and certainly we have some wonderful vistas. Top of Collie Hill, look out across that, that beautiful sunsets that come out there. There is space in this town. There's a lot of space in this town. And I think by designing a residential community that complements the natural environment, the open space that we have, and use our natural beauty to provide this type of a resource would be good for revenue, would be good for town. And again, it would help Gray distinguish itself as caring for citizens of all ages.
Just a quick follow-up question as we talk about potential for development, be it housing, hotels, small businesses. Would you support a bond issue that would improve the infrastructure in terms of, let's say, I don't think we'll ever probably have a sewerage system in terms of connections to water and drainage and things like that, but an improved sanitation ability to remove waste or septic systems or at community expense, so property owners might want to develop their properties, or businesses might want to come here knowing that there's some type of way to dispose of their wastes? Just start with Richard.
Brad, I have been on the Community Economic Development Committee. This is my third over a 20-year period. And that theme has come up every time. And this is where when Lew talks about the town appearing not to be business friendly, we do not have an industrial park. We met with the people from Gorham. We've met with other people who have planned those types of divisions. We're very reluctant to look aggressively at TIFs, to look at other financial incentives that we can provide to attract people in, to help them bear the added cost. If Unum's going to come into this town, there's going to have to be a sewer system. There's going to have to be, the support systems to sustain that type of a community. The competition increasingly with Pineland. Pineland is a magnificent facility that has the infrastructure, that has the facilities in place to attract. If we are going to get in the ballgame, and if we're going to compete against Cumberland, Falmouth, Cape, Scarborough, Pownell, for these types of companies, we are going to have to look at all sorts of financial incentives to draw people in and take the long point of view. Short term, yes, there will be some added expense for the taxpayers of the town, but long term, and you can just do flatline, revenue projections. That potential is very significant of bringing in significant dollars, not marginal dollars of revenue, but significant dollars of revenue. That is going to really be a type of a change in the way we look at things in this town.
Lew?
I would agree with Richard. I don't know as I would go so far to say that I would support a bond to actually do it, but I certainly would support an effort to study it and to look at the available technology and the options. I know in our talks with Area 3 and talking to the people from Northbrook, that they are thinking, they are looking at some different avenues to take as far as wastewater, as far as setting aside a certain section of the land to do something above and beyond the average septic system to help with the wastewater. So I would definitely be open, and I think it would be money well spent to research this and see what our options were, because I agree with Dick. If we're going to bring the real good, nice, big businesses to Gray, we're going to have to do something like that.
Peter?
I would be absolutely opposed to bonding at this point for most anything. We entered into a purchase lease agreement not 5 years ago, a couple of years ago, for vehicles for public works. We are still working to pay that. We bonded to build a new public works facility that was desperately needed, along with improvements to the transfer station where revenues are put into the town's coffers. And we bonded to build this building, again, something that was desperately needed. You know, we have a lot of borrowed money we're having to pay for now, and at this point, I would not be in favor of bonding anything further until we get some of those paid off. Again, a lot of my focus is trying to keep the tax rate reasonable, and I just don't see that we should be borrowing more money, Brad. Thanks.
Now, guys, if you had a magic eraser, what event, decision, or liability related to the town would you want to erase? And we're going to start with Lew.
I actually come up with a couple different answers. One of them's less controversial than the other, but I wanted the people to be aware that I'm not afraid to tackle the controversial issues. So mine would be the decision that was made to do away with town meeting. I've always considered the town meeting to be the purest form of democracy in this country. And when you lose something like that, I think you lose part of your history. And I also think that's another face-to-face contact that you lose with your citizens. And that I can't imagine that ever being good for any community at any time. I do respect the vote, and the people voted it out. What I do not like is I do not like the process that was used to get rid of it. There was no petition signed. It never really, I don't believe, it was fast-tracked. It was never put through the process, vetted through the process, debated the way it should have been, I don't believe. And I also don't think, I think that sends a poor message, a bad message, to the people in town. So yeah, if you want to do away with town meeting, then fine. But go through the process that I would assume anybody else would have to go through at this point if they wanted to try to bring it back. Thank you.
Peter?
Because of my road construction / transportation background in my personal life, the thing that if I could make a change with an eraser would be to be focused on the traffic situation that we still have in the village, even though the bypass has improved that. And again, if I had the ability, I would move the main turnpike exit to the other side of the turnpike and continue the bypass down to Route 100 to take more traffic out of the village. That was what was originally proposed way back 20 years ago, but for various reasons didn't happen, mostly probably financial. And in doing so, I would take the Shaker Road portion from the village up to the bypass and take the route designation off it and make it simply a town road and have reduced traffic and also reduced traffic through the village.
looking back, we're sitting in a building that I have spent years of agony, arguing, fighting, writing, petitioning to address the issue of Pennell Institute, a landmark building in this town that was allowed to deteriorate and to become politically involved, so that we spent years before we got around to building the magnificent facility that is here now. I really lament the fact that we lost more than a decade. I lament the fact that in the process, cost of everything went up and deterioration of contiguous properties have gone down. That in the process of the renovation of this building, we didn't give attention to the lab building, which is an equally historic building on this site. And Newbegin Gym is worn and shoddy in places. It is used heavily. It's a vital asset to this town. And instead of the renovation of the entire complex, the focus had to be on this building and the parts of this building. There were some cutbacks in order to make it financially feasible after years and years of delays. And that's compounded by the ever-increasing numbers of costly surplus municipal-owned or controlled facilities in this town that are in misuse. They're expensive, and they just are not serving the function that they were intended to function, or they have been, they're empty, sitting empty and deteriorating. It seems to me that our comprehensive planning and our ability to look ahead has not had the sharp focus that I would like to see be the case in this town. And part of that type of municipal planning is really looking at a 10, 20-year financial forecast of what you can afford to borrow and what type of borrowing and what type of return would you be able to get from these types of investments. So it is not dead in the water. We can't afford it. Let's look at the options and see what we can afford, because please look at this building. We can afford it. We did do it. It's a magnificent building. It unfortunately cost us a whole lot more and is 10 years late.
You have all mentioned businesses you might like to bring to Gray and needs to do that, and business-friendly environments, and costs of, let's say, education, or having more properties that were taxable properties, not putting burdens on the school systems and the town services. Would you describe for me briefly what your vision of Gray 10 years down the road would be, or maybe even 5 years, considering people are anxious for change? And we'll start with Peter.
I don't see Gray changing much in the next 5 to 10 years. My concern is the economic malaise that we're in at this point within the country and perhaps the world is going to be a mighty slow climb out of. We're seeing it in the stock market, going up and down, not really being strong in the economy the same way. So I don't see Gray changing much. Naturally, I would hope that we would see some economic development to broaden our tax base. We desperately need it. And like Lewis said, there's a bunch of groups with great people in it that are working in that direction, but so is every other town in southern Maine, attempting to do the same thing. And it's a battle behind the scenes. So for that reason, I don't see Gray changing too much over the next 5 to 10 years, Brad.
Richard?
To a degree, I would agree with that, but I don't know if that's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. I don't want Gray to change a whole lot over the next 5 or 10 years. I think our distinctive character is this magnificent balance that we have of a natural environment, our lakes, our resources, our abilities to draw families to come into a community which is not all subdivisions, where there is an ever-improving school system, where Libby Hill and other family recreational facilities are available. Town services are improving. I'm chair of the Gray Public Library. To me, that is the crown jewel of this town. Please come visit the Gray Public Library. Be there Saturday when the children are there. See the increasing number of senior citizens who are using that library. These are magnificent, friendly resources that we have. We need to, again, this is marketing. People need to know, we have to communicate this, and that we have to continue to look at economic opportunities to become financially sustainable, but at the same time, we have to preserve the unique qualities of the town that has made this town distinctive. And yes, we do compete with lots of other towns, but we have lots of qualities in this town that other towns do not have. I want to get that light out from under the basket, to embrace people, but to sustain the quality of life that we have.
And Lou?
I guess I would agree to a certain extent with both of these gentlemen. I don't see probably any huge changes, but then again, I agree with Richard. I'm not so sure that's a bad thing. Although probably a little more optimistic than maybe Peter would be, because I think the town is going to grow, and I don't think we can stop that. It's just too popular an area, and that creates almost a necessary problem for us to really put the effort into doing what we can to attract businesses, because if we just fill the town up with houses, our taxes are going to go through the roof, and nobody wants to see that. So it's going to be a delicate balance. I can see more improvements to the village, as Peter has mentioned. So the first impression when people come to Gray, when they go through the village, will be a better impression than what they get now when they come off the turnpike and run face first into Manny Motors down there, which is a subject for another day. But I am optimistic, and you got to stop and think that this building we're sitting in now, and other projects, even in a bad economy, the people have approved the bonds. The people in Gray, I think, are willing to see this town grow. But I would agree with Peter that you can only do that to a certain extent, because sooner or later you're just not going to be able to sustain the payments. But I think and I don't think the world economy has to change to affect Gray. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, Gray's a pretty small speck on the map. I just think any kind of an improvement in the economy could really make a huge difference in a small town like Gray. And that's my take on it.
We have TIFs for Northbrook. We have TIFs running down Route 100 that help put a water line in there, which is a great thing for businesses and residents down there. Again, Northbrook is an ever improving piece of property. Would it be feasible to have a village TIF district so property owners would maybe be enticed to improve their properties and not be taxed on that immediately, or those taxes be held in a TIF fund for continuous improvements in the village district? Any thoughts on that, Richard, Lou, or Pete?
I don't really know if that could be done, Brad. TIFs are very complex instruments that have certain rules controlled by the state closely. I'm not sure, I'm not an expert on TIFs certainly, but I'm not sure that could even be done.
Or even if, something like a TIF that say might delay somebody's property taxes until the property's sold. I don't know. How would we improve the village without maybe changing the total structure and fabric of the town?
Yeah, it gets ticklish.
I think there are other ways possibly to do it. TIFs are a very good tool. They're a powerful tool. They have to be handled carefully. I am totally against some people that think that we're just going to kick the doors open in Gray and invite anybody that wants to come and give them a 20 or 30-year TIF to set up shop, because I just don't think that's a good idea. I think it's a tool that when used in the right context, can be a very powerful tool. But But there are other options, possibly in the village, concerning long-term leases or decreased property prices and things like that, that also may help. The village is always going to be a little bit of a problem because of the way it's set up. I'm going to get in trouble here, but it's just simply not. I don't think it's ever going to be what some people think that it could be, just because of the way it's set up. But it can be a lot better than what it is, and I think there's been a lot of work towards that by a lot of dedicated, smart people.
Richard, any thoughts? I mean, this is off-the-cuff question, obviously.
No, it's a complicated one. I think Peter is right. The standard TIF is not going to work because the TIF is a highly regulated financial plan, which is specified by the state and has to be implemented locally. And I'm not aware of what would fit into it. But certainly, there is the ability to provide advantages for developers to come in and privately do with some tax incentive to use private resources to make this type of improvement. But this depends upon two very core critical assumptions. Both of my friends are right. Gray is going to grow. That does not concern me. What concerns me is to control the growth of gray. And that is a function of government. That's a function of a comprehensive plan. That's a function of building a budget. That's a function of building programs that will bring in the compensating, whether it is senior housing, whether it is supporting recreation programs to bring in high-income families that would see the advantages of being in this type of town. And the other burden that we're struggling with, please look at the ordinances in Gray. Look at the parking right in the middle of Gray Village. Yeah, it's a mess. But there's no town ordinance that will allow you to ticket a car. The sign's up there, but there are no ordinance that can be enforced. We do not have codes. We have allowed deterioration. Please look at the fire barn and its condition as a building right in the middle of the village. These are governmental issues that have been pushed in the back because they weren't the hot button issues, but that's where the comprehensive plan, that's where looking ahead 20 years to build the infrastructure in terms of government support, in terms of financial plans that will allow us to get a better handle on how we control growth, I think.
Now, my last question tonight is that the town of Gray has just hired each of you as individuals to promote or advertise the town of Gray. What's the punchline, so to speak, the drawing card that you might use, Gray's most prominent asset that you think would help Gray grow and promote the town of Gray? How would you promote the town of Gray? You're our advertising man, Richard. You're first.
Okay. I just wrote one clause here. Affordable country living in a community providing a family culture centered on health, recreation, and family activities, but in close proximity to the thriving Portland Commercial Center. Look at the best of both worlds. We have open space, we have open land, we have lakes, we have trails, we have improving public school system, yet we are in close proximity. But I never see that listed. And people who are looking to relocate from out of state, the tendency is to look towards the coast. But maybe they ought to be looking, and a resource that we are contiguous with is Portland. And Portland is generally recognized as a very prestigious community. I'd like to see that promoted, but in a very positive, synergistic relationship.
Sounds good, Lou.
For me, the one thing that popped into my mind is the services that we provide and the people that provide them. And I think when you go down through the list and you look at public safety and public works and the park and rec department and the getting the library, all, all that stuff, and the people that do it. I mean, considering what we pay for taxes as compared to surrounding towns, for what we get for services, I think is phenomenal. Unfortunately, I've had the opportunity to use Captain Morrison's limousine service a couple times, and I mean, they were always right there for me, and I never had to worry about if the roads were going to be plowed when they needed to be plowed. If I want to play ball somewhere or play basketball, I don't have to worry about that because Dean's got that taken care of. And the library is, to me, is such an important part of a town. To have all these things is really what makes the town, I believe, a community. And the services that we provide, I think, Randy up to the transfer station. I mean, there are people that come to the town of Gray that envy us for our transfer station. I don't even think the town of Wyndham has a dump anymore. You know?
Can't legally.
My dad calls me, wants to know if he can bring his trash over to my house. I said, no, Dad, you can't do that.
Doesn't recycle.
But, you know, it's really phenomenal. I mean, it's just, we get excellent services. We get them, I think, for a real fair and reasonable price. And, you know, hopefully we can maintain that. And I agree with Richard, we have a school that's doing an excellent job. The leadership that they have and the school board's doing a good job considering what they have to work with. And if you're gonna have any of the other stuff, and if you're gonna have community growth and economic growth, you need to have a good school system or else the people won't come.
Peter?
I certainly agree with Dick and Lou in regards to the services the town offers. I kind of looked at this question a little differently, more from a business promotion point of view. And, you know, I feel as though, you know, Gray sits astride the main turnpike, and to me that's our greatest asset, is the transportation that the town, you know, avails itself of to businesses, you know, the traveling public. In some respects, I'm surprised that Gray has not been discovered because of the turnpike, because of some of the other connecting roads. You know, Gray has a lot to offer. We're, you know, very close to the Lakes region. We're not far from the ski resorts. We have a wonderful golf course, the Maine Wildlife Park. You know, there's a lot of pluses, but it's just as if Gray really hasn't been discovered yet. And, but my answer to the question is I think the transportation benefits that Gray presents is its biggest asset.
Thank you. Now, I'm done with our formal questions. So in the last few remaining minutes, I'd like to give each one of you an opportunity to make some closing remarks, perhaps sell yourself to that undecided voter. And we will start with Richard.
I close where I started. I grew up in this town as a young boy. I worked as a member of the Key Club. I learned what community service was. It was forced upon us, and there was a sense of community. We were forced to go to town meetings. We weren't asked to. We were forced to. We had to write papers on it. But flowing from this is a sense of connectiveness with this community. We live in this town today by choice. We love the town. We believe in the town. And we think it's very important that all of us work together in harmony. When Lew was just mentioning, I was on the dump committee. I still call it the dump. But working with Randy when he was developing that concept, you look at Randy, Dean, Steve, these are the most extraordinary people. They are committed to being professionals in their own jobs. They have great pride in this town. They have decades of service to this town that we do not have, the transitory nature of employees. Our employees are as committed to this town as our citizens, as our citizens from who work outside of the town. It's a great town because of the interdynamics of those relationships. It needs to be nurtured. Gray is going to be discovered. We've got to make sure that in the process of seeing this growth, that we don't lose sight of our core values. Alex Haley wrote rather eloquently on the concept of roots. My roots are here. I believe in roots, but I want the roots to be solid and substantial and permanent.
Thank you. Lou?
I'm going to touch on something that Peter just said. I'm glad he mentioned it. About Gray just hasn't been discovered, and I agree with him. But the reason for my optimism on one of the questions about what Gray might be in 10 years, I think we're close, and I think it's going to happen. I don't think we can stop it even if we wanted to. I think we're that close. And it's important to do some of the things that I think the town has been working on to try to prepare for that. Because when it happens, it's going to happen fairly fast, I think. And the more that we can do now to prepare for that, I think is better. And one other thing I would like to touch on, I've been out the last couple of months or so and talked to quite a few people in Gray, and I'm concerned there seems to be a disconnect between the people and the government of Gray. We don't, I'm not really saying anyone's truly at fault about that, but we don't have a newspaper anymore that goes out on a regular basis. So that's a big thing. There's a lot of people that they just don't seem to know what's going on. And there's a lot more, surprisingly to me, a lot of the people that I talk to are more aware of what's going on than I thought there were. Not everybody's got cable TV, so they can't watch the meetings and this, that, and the other thing. So there is a certain disconnect there, and I think we're working on the possibility of sending out a newsletter maybe 3 or 4 times a year, and I think that will help. But I think anything the town can do to get information out to people on the website or however they possibly can would be huge, because I would really like to see the people become more involved in the town again. Thank you.
Peter?
I was elected to the town council in 2008, and because of that, I've had the opportunity to meet many, many wonderful people in town that I certainly never would have met had I not been elected to the council. I'm glad to have played a small role in saving this building and creating a new town hall. I'm running for a second term and would appreciate your vote. And I wanted to thank Brad and Gray Cable TV for putting this on tonight, and to again urge people to get to the polls on June 14th and vote for 2 of the 3 of us. I don't think you can vote for all 3 because I don't think it's legal. But, really this is where the rubber meets the road as far as government is concerned, is local government. The budgets have been carefully put together both on the municipal level and school level, and people need to come to the polls and state their opinion. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Peter. I'd like to thank the candidates for their time tonight. I would also remind you in the town of Gray that might not be registered voters, that you still have time to register to vote, and not to forget to vote at the polls for the municipal budget, the school budget, and your town council candidates on June 14th. Thank you very much.
Absentee ballots.
Or absentee ballots, thank you, Richard, that need to be submitted prior to a certain date or time on the 14th. But make sure you vote or register to vote. And again, gentlemen, thank you very much, and good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Brad.